So now we're on Daf Vav Hamid Beis. Shor Yochiach. Shor is going to prove to us that even in the case of Rishus, meaning you're allowed and permitted to go with your animal in Rishus Harabim, nobody prohibits you, and Bezdin will allow you to do so. And nevertheless, if the shor goes out and damages, you pay for damages. And therefore, even in the case of Potkin V'Vosayim, despite the fact that you're Rishus to open up that gutter and flood the Rishus Harabim with your filthy water, nevertheless, you'll be chayav deriving from shor. But yet shor is a chumrah. Can't derive it from shor. And here, it's not darko leilach hazik. Because what happened was, it lands on the ground. But then we have bar yochia. Because bar lands on the ground, or is dug on the ground, is for chazar adin, and then again we have a tzad shaveh. We see that the chumros are not the gorem of the chiyuv tashlume nezikin. The chumrah of shor is that it's darko leilach hazik, but bar is not darko leilach hazik. The chumrah of bar is that he had no rishus to dig the bar. But on the other hand, in shor, you're chayiv even though he had rishus. So you see that the chumros are not gorem the chiyuv, and that's called the tzad shaveh. Ravino Amar, he has another suggestion. What is the Mishnah of tzad shaveh coming to include? Lasuye hadisnan, a Mishnah at the end of Mitzvah. HaKosel va'ilon shenaflu shesarav ziku. Your kosel fell, collapsed into Rishus Harabim. Or you had a tree that fell from your gina into Rishus Harabim, and people got damaged by it. And this applies bein b'shas nefila, bein liach nefila, potem shalem. He doesn't have to pay for it because he had a right to build a kosel. He had a right to plant a tree, and he had no clue, and there was no indication that that kotel would fall or the tree would fall. And therefore, he's onus, and he's not chayav for that nezikin. He was bono karoi. He built it the right way. So if Bezdin sees, on the other hand, they can tell, they got a notice from some passerby that this kotel is a very shaky, it's the leaning tower of Pisa, then nosnim lozman, they give him a 30-day period of time, demolish the kotel and cut down the ilam. If the hezek happened within the 30 days, potter, because once again he's still honest and they gave him a 30-day period. But liachar azman, if the kotel of the ilan falls, liachar azman, Bezdin gave him 30 days and it fell after 30 days. He never cut down the tree or demolished the kotel. Chayav. Once again, once it falls, it's a bar. And if he was mafkir, then bein l'rab bein l'shmuel hainu bar. U'maishna bar dehezeko matzui. Any animal that goes by a bar will fall into the bar. Ushmiras alecha, and you're responsible for creating that bar. Haninami here too, hezeko matzui. It's quite common for some hezek to happen when there's a tree or broken stones in Rishus Harabim. And Shmiras Alecha. V'idalav karinu is the Shmuel, the Amar Kula mi bar lamadnu imkain, hainu bar. Gemara says, Leolam daf karinu v'lo domi. It's not similar to bar. Ma'ala bar shekei tchilas asiyos l'nezek. When he dug the bar, that was an act of creating a mazik. Tomer bahani, but here when he built the kotel, it was a very solid wall, and ein tchilas asiyos l'nezek. Although you and I would argue now that Bezdin told him that the kotel is going to fall down, and they gave him a 30-day period to demolish it, now it becomes asiyos l'nezek, but it's not tchilas asiyos l'nezek. In other words, he never did a maisa of creating a mazik. Shor yochiach, as we said many times, in the case of Shor, he didn't create a mazik. Mal Shor came. So again, there are two chumras. The chumra of bar, as we said, is that tchilas asiyos l'nezek. But again, in Shor we don't have that chumrah. And the chumrah of Shor is darkul elech lahazik, and we don't have that chumrah in Bar. So therefore, we take the tzad shava. Both of them we derive the case of kotel ve'ilun shenof. The Mishnah says kishehizik chav hamazik l'sham tashlum nezik b'meitav haaretz. Chav hamazik. Why does it say chav hamazik? That lashon doesn't appear anywhere. It should have said chayav hamazik miboyle, and the word chayav appears all over the show. Amar Rav Yehuda Barav Haitana Yushalmihu Titani Lishna Kalila. The Mishnah was authored in Yerushalayim, in Eretz Yisrael, and there they use a lashon ktsara. They have a tendency of shortening words. So instead of chayav, they use the word chayav. And the Mishnah says that l'shalim tashlumi nezek mimeitav haaretz ton rabbanon. Now the Gemara is going to quote a machlokas tanoim. What does this Mishnah have in mind? And we start with the first shita of the Tana Kamma, who's Rabbi Shmuel. And what does the Tana Kamma Rabbi Shmuel say? Meitav sodeu meitav karma yishalem. Meitav sodeu shel nizak u meitav karma shel nizak tirei Rabbi Shmuel. Now we'll get back to Rabbi Shmuel in just a minute. First, let's go to Rabbi Akiva. That's the simple pshat. Rabbi Akiva omer levar kosev el ligvos the nezikim and idis the kavachom mehegdish. Rabbi Akiva understands meitav the way we understand meitav, which means that if the mazik has different levels of quality of karka, then the nizak has rights to be tovea the best quality of karka, and that's based on the pasuk meitav sadeu u meitav karma yishalim. Okay, let's take another case. Let's take a case of Shane, for example. So the animal ate the aruga of the nizak, a patch of tomatoes. And after the animal does that, the nizak is toveh the mazik, and the mazik has different kinds of karka. He's got karka that's better, karka that's not so good. We'll call it karka tova and karka grua. And Rabbi Akiva says that the nizak has a right to collect from karka tova. And what's the kal v'chomer from hegdesh? That in hegdesh also, hegdesh has a right to collect from idis. Let's say, for example, a person he promises to contribute X amount of karka to hegdesh. We take it from idis. What was Rabbi Yishmael? Meitav karmo shel nizak. What does it mean? That when a person collects tashlume nezek, he can do so based on the best quality of karka that he has, which is called hasodeh hatova biyoser shel hanizak. So therefore, if let's say the mazik's animal ate an aruga, a whole row of tomatoes or potatoes, whatever he ate, then the aruga itself might be what's called an aruga klusha, which means that it takes a lot of work and a lot of toil and a lot of fertilizer and sunshine and watering and irrigating in order to produce something from this karka klusha or aruga klusha. So the animal, even if it ate from an aruga klusha, then the nizak has rights to be gove the tashlume nezek based on the best karka that he owns. So again, the animal ate from a kusha, from an aruga kusha. But when we evaluate how much of a damage was occurred, we're going to evaluate it as if he had eaten from an aruga mishubachas, from the aruga tova, the best aruga that the nizak owns. Break the Gemara. Ul Rabbi Yishmael, Achal Shmeina Mishalim Shmeina, Achal Krusha Mishalim Shmeina. Could it possibly be that the Nizak has rights in a case where the Mazik's animal ate from an Aruga Krusha to collect as if the Nezek had taken place on an Aruga Shmeina? An Aruga Krusha is worth 100, an Aruga Shmeina is worth 500. So now he has to pay 500 when the Nezek was only on an Aruga Krusha. So Gemara reinterprets Rabbi Yishmael, Amrav Idi Bar Ovid, what's the case of Rabbi Yishmael? Kigon Sha'achla, Achal Aruga, Bein Arugos. Right, there were many different Arugos. There were Arugos Shmenos and the Arugos Krushos. The Arugos Shmenos produce a very significant volume of payros. The Arugos Krushos have a limited volume of payros. V'lo yadin, and we don't know. Which aruga did the animal eat from? Did the mazik, the shar mazik, eat from? Ikhushachal, ishmeinachal. The mishal ishmeina. Wait a minute. We have a principle called amotzi mechaver of araya, suffik momelekula. How could you say that in this suffik you're going to have to pay the higher price? Hamotzi mechaver of araya. You prove that the nezek happened to a shmeina. Amar Rava ma iliyadina de krusha achal. Lo mishal krusha. He's only chayav to pay for krusha because that's what he ate. This hashlo yadina we don't know. I krusha achal, ishmeina achal. Is mishalem shmeina? Hamotzi mechaver all of arayos. Elo Amar Rav Acha we have to reinterpret Rabbi Yishmael, and even Rabbi Yishmael is modeh that he pays the demei aruga that he ate as it's worth. Hachamayas Kinan, what's the machlok between Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva? Kegon shahoisa idis the nizak kiziburis the mazik, which means that the nizak owns the best karka. The best karka that the nizak owns is equal to the worst karka of the mazik. Uba hakam iflagi. Rabbi Yishmael Sorabin and Nizak Shaminon. Again, we're not dealing with how much he's going to have to pay. Whatever the damage was, that's what the mazik will pay. Period. Less mandapoli. But the machlokus is going to be when the payment is through the medium of karka. What karka does the nizak have rights to collect? Where am I? Right, so let's say the mazik has different levels of karka, and the nizak wants to collect the highest level, the greatest quality karka, that's idis. Says Rabbi Akiva, Meitav Sadeu, the nizak has rights to collect that, again, the same amount of money, but from karka idis. And Rabbi Yishmael holds, the nizak shaiminon. The nizak has different levels of karka, and the mazik is going to have to pay from karka, which is the best karka of the nizak. Now, this is very strange because the best karka of the nizak is equal to the worst karka of the mazik. So Rabbi Akiva takes the highway here, the simplest pshat, and he says the Torah gave rights to the nizak to collect from the yidus of the mazik, and that's understood. Meitav Sadei Yishal. But Rabbi Shmuel says, "B'din nizak shaymina," that the Torah has in mind the best soda of the nizak. So in our case, the mazik is going to pay from his worst karka, whereas Rabbi Akiva will say that the mazik always has to pay from the best karka. My time with the Rabbi Shmuel. Nemar soda lamata v'never soda lamala, ma soda omer lamala. The nizak af soda omer lamata the nizak. So Rabbi Shmuel has a gzeira shava. At the end of the pasuk, it says, with the lashon of soda for tashlumei nezek, meitav soda yishal. However, at the beginning of the pasuk, it says ubir b'stei acher, and that's the description of the Masechet. Ma soda amura lemala. When it says ubir b'stei acher, it means the nizak. The soda that we're talking about obviously is the soda of the nizak. That's what bir b'stei acher means. Is now af soda omer lemata, the pasuk that says meitav soda yishalim. The word soda means the soda of the nizak. That's the shita Rabbi Akiva, in which the nizak will be able to collect his best karka, which is equal in this case to the worst karka of the mazik. And Rabbi Akiva, what does he do with meitav sadeu? He says meitav sadeu karma yishalim dehech to come yishalim. Forget about the gzeira shava. Meitav sadeu yishalim means the meitav of he who owns sadeu, he who owns the sada, and that's going to be the mazik. Fracting of Rabbi Shmuel, how could he derive from this gzeira shava the din? That's okay, the pashtus of the pasuk. And the Gemara answers, "Ahani gzeira shava v'ahani kra." You're right. There's a problem here, but we're going to solve the problem. We're going to say that on the one hand, the gzeira shava is going to teach me meitav sadei shel nizak. The pasuk says meitav karma, meitav sadei yishalim, which is referring to the mazik. So ahani gzeira shava k'avnina, ahani kra. Where do we need the pasuk that you pay the meitav of the mazik? Kegon to islay lemazik. The mazik owns two karkos. One of them is idis, and the other one is ziburis. Okay, then so you have the two extremes. You have idis and you have ziburis. But let's go on. The nizak has idis. The idis the nizak, and the best quality karka owned by the nizak is not as great as the best quality of the karka the mazik. The ziburis the mazik lo shavya ki idis the nizak. So since the mazik owns ziburis as well as idis, his ziburis is not on the level, quality-wise, of the idis of the nizak. So again, on the one hand, we're saying that the best quality karka, the nizak, is not as good as the idis of the mazik. But the mazik, as we said before, has both idis and ziburis, and the ziburis of the mazik is not up to the level of the idis of the nizak. So what does Rabbi Shmuel understand here? Again, the mazik does not have any karka that's equal to the best quality karka of the nizak. So when we're applying the principle of Rabbi Shmuel of meitav sodeu shel hanizak, then he doesn't have such a karka. the mazik simply doesn't have a karka that's equal to the mu'ula, to the meitav of the nizak. So what do we do in this case? Although he does have karka that's superior to the idus of the nizak, but it's either or. Either it's what's the word? Mishubachas yoser, or it's grua yoser. But the mazik does not own a karka that's on the same exact identical level, quality-wise, as the idus of the nizak. So what do we do in this case? Do we go up one bar or do we go down one bar? And here in this case, the Mishalim Levi Meitav Didei, the mazik is going to have to cough up and pay with his meitav, which is superior to the idus of the nizak. So if we only had the pasuk of if we only had the Gzeir Shav, that teaches me Bidin Nizak Shaimina, then in this case, the Nizak would not have recourse to collect idus. He'd have to go down a madrig because the idus of the mazik is superior to the idus of the nizak. But now that we have also the Pashte Dekra, and the Pashte Dekra says Meitav Yishalim, it's referring to the mazik and his meitav, then we're going to go up one notch, and the nizak is going to get has rights to collect the compensation from a karka that's superior to even his best karka, his meitav. Lo matzi amala ta'at gabi gavai means collect, means ziburis. Why can't the mazik say to this, go down a madrig and collect from ziburis? Ella givei mi meitav. He has the right to collect from the meitav of the sod of the mazik, even though the meitav of the sod of the mazik is superior in quality to the meitav of the nizak. Rabbi Akiva Omer Lo Ba Kosvel Ligvos L'Nizakim in Idus VeKavachom LeHegdesh. My Kavachom LeHegdesh. Lema, if you're going to tell me that he's talking about a case of Nogach Torah Didan Lit Torah de Hegdesh. Our shor was Nogach Shor Shel Hegdesh. That can't be, because Shari Ewa Marachmona Velo Shor Shel Hegdesh. When your shor is Nogach Shor Shel Hegdesh, you don't have to pay for that. You're part of your Shalit, based on the pasuk and the drush of Shari'eu. Ella, what's the Kavachomer? Li Omer Harei Alai Mana Lebedek Abayis. A person took upon himself in a neder, Nidrei Hegdesh, a contribution of mana for Bedek Abayis for the Beis Hamikdash, and as it turns out, he has no liquid assets. All he has to pay up this chov to Hegdesh is karka. The Osi Gizbar v'Shakel mi'idus, and the Gizbar represents Hegdesh, is allowed to collect from the idus of the karka of the noder. And why is that? That's because in Hegdesh gets the upper hand, and they can collect from the noder, from the idus of the noder. Frek the Gemara, why? Lo yeheil kebal chov. The chiv that he owes to pay up his contribution, his pledge to Hegdesh, is equal to a regular bal chov. He's makabel on himself a chov to Hegdesh. So the Gizbar, who's representing Hegdesh, is not in any better position than a malva who comes to collect a chov, collect a alva. And here on the top of Daf Zayin, Bal Chov bid Beinanis. Bal Chov could only collect from the middle level of karka. So why should the Gizbar have rights to collect from his idus? In the case of Bal Chov, there's only rights of the malva to collect from Beinanis. The Chitaim, if you want to answer, Savar Rabbi Akiva, Kol Bal Chov be'idus. Maybe Rabbi Akiva allows himself this Kal V'chomer from Hegdesh because he holds it in Hegdesh you always collect the contribution money from Idis. So the Gemara says that on this v'chitema, which is a very logical presentation, we have the pircha to slug up the kal v'chomer mala bal chov shekein yafa kocho b'nizakin. In general, a bal chov has the right to collect from Idis. And that's what we said in Nizakin, when the Bal Chov here is the Nizak and he's coming to collect his Nezek, he has a right to collect from Idis. But Tomer Behegdesh or Hura Kolcho b'Nizakin. If a person is Mazik Hegdesh, he's part of it. So we see that the status and the position of Hegdesh is Hura Kolcho. And therefore he should not be able to collect from Idis. Okay, then this is where we'll stop for today on the top of Daf Zayin.